I love traveling, so whenever anyone invites me to join them, I never say no, no matter how far the destination is or what kind of place it is. However, that incident during my senior high school spring break changed me. My friends Jerry, Ken, and I planned a trip to a newly opened resort that was about 3 to 4 hours away. We all drove to the resort on Thursday. The location was near a forest, surrounded by nature, with beauty everywhere. Nearby, there was a lake. It was definitely one of the most beautiful and peaceful places I'd ever been to in my life. We stayed at the resort for 2 days, exploring the entire place and having a lot of fun. On Sunday, around 4 p.m., we started making our way back home. However, on the return journey, we encountered a long line of cars. When I asked someone about the situation, they informed us that the road was blocked due to a fallen tree, and it might take hours or even until the next day to clear it. Considering the late hour and our lack of patience to wait or return to the resort, Ken suggested taking a steep, old road that could possibly serve as a shortcut, helping us find our way back home. Given the circumstances, it seemed like a better option than standing in the long line. So I turned the car onto that road. It was a muddy, narrow road winding further into the forest. We traveled along that path for quite a while, but there was no indication of a route to the highway, and we didn't come across any other vehicles. The road didn't have any signals, rendering GPS navigation impossible. Ken, who was initially confident about the shortcut, was now regretting his decision. As darkness set in, we found ourselves in the middle of nowhere. The only visibility came from the headlights of our car. We had lost track of our location, and uncertainty surrounded us. Uncertain about our next move, Jerry spoke up, saying, "I think we should turn back before we get even deeper into the forest." We all agreed, though turning around was challenging on the narrow road. Just as we were contemplating our next steps, a glimmer of hope emerged. We spotted lights in the distance. A car was approaching, and relief washed over us. Eagerly, we waited for the car to draw near. Minutes passed, and to our surprise, the car seemed stationary. Growing impatient, I decided to drive closer for a better look. As we approached, I dimmed my headlights. It turned out to be a red car standing in the middle of the road. As we pulled up in front of the red car, the driver began honking impatiently, signaling for us to move aside. Considering the narrowness of the road, one of us had to make way for the other to pass. The bright lights from the car made it difficult to see who was inside. I got out of our car to the driver's side to ask about where that road will lead us. I walked up to the driver's side and tapped on the window. The driver didn't answer and just kept honking. I knocked again, and this time they opened the window a tiny bit. I couldn't see the person inside, but I asked if there was a highway or main road in that direction. No one said anything, and the driver closed the window, raised the mirror again, and started honking the horn once more. I figured they might be scared, thinking we're the bad guys or something. So I went back to our car and pulled it to the side of the road. With the red car's lights no longer blinding us, we noticed something odd. It seemed like there was no one in the driver's seat. The red car started moving slowly and past us. We all peered inside as it went by, and to our surprise, there was no one in the car. It was moving on its own somehow. If there was no one in the car, who was honking, and who opened the window? Fear gripped all of us, making it the most uncomfortable moment of my life. The unexplained events left us so scared that we decided not to turn our car around. We didn't want to follow that red car. Instead, we kept moving forward. After about 40 minutes, we finally reached the highway, and thankfully, we managed to escape that eerie place unharmed. Since then, I've made it a rule never to take shortcuts and avoid isolated roads, especially at night. I never thought that I would share it this way, but I'm just scared and don't know what to do. My name is Joseph, and I'm 17 years old. We live in a small town, more like a village, surrounded by nature and a big forest. My friends, Chris, Jim, Tenna, and I are the most naughty kids here. We had just started a new hobby, documenting everything while doing adventures, trying new things, and, well, I know everyone around us. We're famous in the whole village for our actions. Everyone knows us as the troublemaking kids. We were having spring vacations and had nothing to do, so we decided to do a little adventure that would be the best thing for me to document. In the back of our village, near the woods, there's an abandoned school rumored to be haunted. Nobody goes there or even talks about it. They say something bad happened there. Whenever we ask anyone about it, nobody really tells us about it and simply wants us not to go there. We wanted to do some adventurous exploring, so we didn't listen to anyone and left without anyone knowing. It was Saturday night, and Jim, Chris, Tenna, and I all met at my house. We grabbed our backpacks, and I took out my camera as well, then left without anyone knowing. After a 20-minute walk, we arrived at the large building. Dirty walls adorned with dresses and spiderwebs suggested that nobody had been there for a long time. We took our torches and ventured inside. There were classrooms with desks and chairs, everything messy but seemingly like a normal school. We explored for about 10 minutes. Nothing really happened like the scary stuff. A cat did scare Tenna, but nothing more than that. I thought the villagers were just saying things to keep us away from this abandoned place. As we were about to leave, Tenna stopped us and pointed towards stairs that apparently led underground. I suggested to them we shouldn't go any further because it was getting really late, but they were all excited and insisted on continuing. "Looks like we finally found something interesting," Chris exclaimed, and everyone else chimed in, urging me to go along with their plan. We went down the stairs. It was already midnight, but I agreed. The area we entered resembled a basement, more like a storage room. I saw a door behind some tables. We all pushed that stuff away and opened the door. It was a dark room, and we all had our torches as we started exploring. It was colder inside than usual for some reason. I looked around while recording everything, and it was very strange to have such a room, actually a secret room, in a school. The room was filled with broken toys and mutilated toads, each with a red string tied around their neck and a tag with a name written on each. One of the names seemed kind of familiar. It was of a girl who went missing last year, and the tag was tied to the doll that somehow looked exactly like her. That sent chills down my spine. Jim then pointed out toward an old book positioned at the center of the room. On the floor, there was a peculiar sign resembling a star enclosed in a circle, with black candles positioned at each corner. The blue book was carefully placed in the center of this arrangement. We cautiously stepped inside the circle and opened the book. We opened the book, but we couldn't understand anything written inside. It was like some weird language we'd never seen before, making the whole thing even more mysterious. Some really creepy pictures were in that book, like seriously scary stuff. At that moment, we all agreed to stop recording and just get out of there. Something felt off in that place. The vibes, the atmosphere, those dolls, and weird signs. We didn't want to mess with anything anymore and decided not to take anything with us. Deep down, we were all a bit scared. We headed straight home, and we all decided not to tell anyone about our visit to that abandoned school. When I got home and was about to change my shoes, I noticed one of those red shreds was stuck in my shoe. I tried not to think too much about it, but I can't ignore the fact that we decided to leave everything as it was, not take anything from that place, and now I've moved things. It's been a week since then, and I can't shake this weird feeling of being watched all the time, as if I'm never alone and something bad followed me. This unsettling incident occurred about a year ago when I was on my way home from a tiring trip. My name's David, and I usually avoid late-night drives. However, on this particular night, I was returning from a trip I went on with my friends during spring break. I had to cut it short because my grandpa was in critical condition at the hospital. I left my parents there to continue enjoying the trip. As I navigated down that seemingly never-ending highway for an hour, the weight of the long workday bore down on me. I desperately needed a break. I decided to pull over at the next convenience store that I expected to encounter on my route ahead. After about 20 minutes, I finally spotted one. I pulled my car into the parking lot and headed inside to grab some coffee. As I entered, I noticed a striking young woman with long, flowing black hair standing at the counter. She was truly captivating, and her image remains etched in my memory. She was at the counter settling her bill. Our eyes met briefly, and she offered a warm smile. Afterward, she gathered her belongings and departed in her car. After a brief stop at that random store, I continued my journey along the lonely highway. It was a moonless night, and the darkness seemed to grow more profound with every mile. I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease creeping over me as I drove further into the night. Then, out of the blue, I spotted that same car from the convenience store, parked by the roadside. Confusion and concern washed over me. I reasoned that the woman's car must have encountered some trouble, and she might be in need of assistance. I pulled my car over beside hers to offer help. As I prepared to step out of my car, I noticed her once again. However, this time, she appeared drastically different from before. Her once beautifully settled hair was now an unruly tangle, hanging limply around her face. Her skin had turned a deathly pale shade, and her eyes held an eerie, otherworldly glint. I hesitated for a moment, a shiver of unease running down my spine. Something about her had changed so dramatically, it sent a chill through my veins. Despite my initial intention to assist, I couldn't ignore the growing feeling of dread that had settled into the pit of my stomach. She popped open the car trunk, hauling out a hefty can that shimmered under the dim light. I stayed put in my car, baffled by her actions, unable to look away. She cracked open the can, and the sharp tang of gasoline hung heavy in the air as she poured it over herself. My heart pounded, and my mind raced as I tried to make sense of the chilling scene. In the next moment, she retrieved the lighter from her bag. A wicked grin twisted across her face, sending a shiver down my spine. Before I could muster the courage to intervene, she ignited the lighter. Her agonized screams pierced the darkness. I sat there, paralyzed by shock and disbelief. I could still hear those terrifying screams echoing in my ears. I was so scared that I just drove away in a hurry. I called the police and told them everything I'd seen. I don't know what had come over her to make her do such a thing. I got back home instead of the hospital. I couldn't sleep that night. Those screams kept playing in my mind like a broken record. Since that day, I've been having these nightmares about that girl. She shows up with that creepy smile and her burnt body, asking me why I didn't save her. I still have the same nightmares, and I can't figure out why she did what she did or what she wants from me, but her memories keep haunting me in my dreams.